develop a model where we can put our notes from the teacher observation in there. The AI will align it with the rubric for us that we use.
That when a new innovative or a new program is introduced, some educators naturally adapt to it more quickly than the others. So how do you identify those early adapters?
You know, the $1 million question, no pun intended, but yeah, it's challenging, right? We're in a very conservative, low spending district, so very financially conservative. And our enrollment's declining, like many of the high schools and school districts throughout.
I learned a lot, especially about how this human connection can go a long way in terms of retaining teachers and then in terms of just building partnership.
Always looking for new ways to communicate with our different demographics, and podcasts seem to be a big thing, especially with folks in the younger generation.
As AI and automation change the workforce, how are you preparing students and teachers for this new reality? Are you integrating any AI literacy courses or technology readiness into your district strategy right now? Welcome to the podcast, listeners. Our theme for today is workforce development in rural schools. We're joined by Brooke Olsen-Farrell, Superintendent of Slate Valley Unified School in District in the Vermont. She's a former science teacher, and Brooke has spent the past 8 years leading Slate Valley School, where she's known for improving staff culture, expanding opportunities like dual enrollment, work-based learning, and early college pathways. Brooke, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Okay, so I would love to begin this discussion with knowing a little about your journey. So, Brooke, you've been in education for your whole career, starting as a science teacher and now serving as a superintendent. Why did you choose education in the first place? And after all of these years, is that why still the same?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've never imagined working in any other field but education. And even as a young child, I always wanted to be a school superintendent. So, so it's just been a natural career path for me. I just love working with students and trying to make an impact on my local community and society as a whole. And that's still my why 27 years later.
Mhm. That is really sweet, and I think that's really heartwarming to listen to. So, leading a rural districts come with a lot of unique challenges and unique opportunities. How has the rural context shaped your approach to leadership and innovation?
Yeah, so certainly in a rural school district, in a rural state, our district is about 213 square miles, and it spans two different counties in the state. And so sometimes finding community partners can be really challenging. So we really have had to make really intentional outreach efforts to our local businesses around especially work-based learning. We are fortunate in our district to actually have a campus that's part of Vermont State University. So we have a really strong partnership with their programming there. And so that's made it easier for us to access those resources and to bring more opportunities to our students. But certainly the rural context provides a lot of unique challenges in terms of transportation and just equity and access for students to outside programming.
Hmm. And when you're faced by all of these challenges, how is it that you usually resolve when these challenges come around?
So can you repeat that? Sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. When you get all of these challenges, how is it that you usually tackle these challenges as and when they come by?
So So when we have these challenges, we also reach out to our neighboring school districts and see if we can partner with them. For example, transportation to our local career and tech center was a problem when we didn't have enough bus drivers. So we've partnered with a district and a high school nearby so that our kids have a shared bus transportation back and forth. We've, been able to purchase our own vehicles in case we need to transport students to college programming or other outside work-based learning experiences that they might not otherwise have access to. I mean, so one of our biggest issues really is transportation.
And I'm hearing a lot of partnership working out really well for you. So, I mean, that is pretty amazing. I would also love to know that early in your tenure, you led a district through a series of safety crises. How did that experience shape the way that you lead today, particularly around trust, resilience, and community connection?
Yeah, so it really has been pretty foundational to the way I lead today. Certainly, when you are faced with a significant school safety threat, and in our case, this went on for a couple of years, a very complicated situation, and we had staff and students leave during those couple of years as a result of it. We really had to focus on staff and student resilience moving forward, and specifically staff resilience, the staff that still stayed in the district, and how to really work on that culture and building up, trust and relationships throughout the school district. So really one of the core focus of my leadership today is really on building trust throughout our district with community, staff, students, the school board, and really working on culture. Because if you don't have a strong, positive culture throughout your buildings and throughout your district, it's difficult to make improvements in student outcomes. And so we really are putting the people before the numbers, right? Like, so really focused on the humans that we interact with on a daily basis.
And I think that human connection does go a long way in terms of resilience, and I think we really love that. Okay. So that leads very well to my next question. So staff retention is a national issue, and you've managed to improve culture and retention in Slate Valley. What strategies have you found the most effective in terms of keeping great educators engaged and committed?
Yeah, so I mean, I think again that human connection, making sure that they feel supportive,
Mhm.
that we're really clear about our work and our vision and our mission, and we're really putting in systems of support to help us achieve that along the way. We also are paying a lot of attention, again, to staff resilience, professional development, specifically instructional coaching of teachers in the classroom, and specifically for us at the elementary level. We are looking at ways in which we can build relationships, like intentionally, and I know this is just a minor thing, but this is one example. Um, I send every employee a happy birthday message when it's their birthday, or celebrate their work anniversary when it comes along. And our principals are doing similar things. And I think it's just those little things. And then recognizing and lifting up good work that folks are doing in the classroom. And I think that's especially powerful. We also have been very intentional about developing pathways for sustainability. For example, we've started a future leaders cohort where we're paying for teachers' master's degrees or principal certification for them to become leaders in our organization. They have to stay in the district so many years as a result of us paying for that. But we've been super successful with that. We've had about 11 teachers go through that programming. And, we've hired a couple of those new leaders into our organization. We also are doing something similar. We're currently working on a program for our instructional assistants to become teachers in the future and what that looks like. So again, partnering with the local university, in this case, our Agency of Education and Department of Labor. And so how can we build, those pipelines? And also when we hire teachers that are on temporary licenses, this year we have started a partnership around a registered teacher apprenticeship program where we're giving them mentorship and support as they work through the peer review process for licensure. And in addition, 3 years ago, we started an instructional assistant mentoring program. Those are positions that have largely been left behind and not as supported as our teaching positions or principal positions. So we've really built some robust mentorship opportunities under the guidance of our local bargaining unit and some of our administrators, and that's been a really positive development. We've been able to take our retention rate from about 78% as a district to 92% consecutively for the last 2 years. So really proud of that work we've done in that area.
I mean, the strategies that you shared, it is no wonder that the rate has gone that up, especially the one thing that has stuck with me is celebrating their work anniversaries. It may seem like a very small thing, but I think for that one person, for that one teacher, it really does make a lot of difference. So yeah, I think that is really incredible. You also emphasize on aligning your staff around that one big goal each year. So can you share how that works in practice and the impact that it has had on culture and outcomes?
Yeah, so a couple of things really with that. We have one big goal, but we also have a theme each year that when we get back together in August, at convocation to kick off the new year, we really talk about what's on the horizon. And the last couple of years, with everything that's going on at the federal policy level and in our state, we have a lot going on with school consolidation and redistricting. And so there's a lot of noise out there for public school educators. And really our message has been, you need to focus on what you can control. And that's not a whole lot of that noise that's out there. And we want you to show up for the students who show up for you each day in the classroom. And so really give them the permission to let that other noise fade into the background and focus on our kiddos. And all of our staff have goals that are aligned with my goals and the principal's goals around increasing either academic achievement or really working on the behavioral piece and outcomes in those areas. So those are things that we all kind of have a shared goal, but also permission to let the other things go and just focus on the students. And this may lead into something else that you might ask me later. It actually is coupled probably with the AI question, but we have really adopted a new supervision evaluation model in the last few years and been piloting it in schools and with our administration. And this year is the first full-scale implementation across the district, but it's based on coaching. It's based on, encouraging academic growth and professional growth. And it's a coaching model and not perhaps your traditional, what some teachers or administrators might feel like a gotcha model. It's meant to grow us. And so that's been a huge shift. And it's really about a collaborative process between the supervisor and the teacher for you to grow in your instructional learning, because there are things that you need from your administrator in that process. And there's things that your principal, or in my case, superintendent, should be able to coach you on as the instructional leader in the building or in the district. So really, have switched our model. And in some ways, which I can talk about in a little bit, we're also looking at AI to help with that a bit in the future. So
That sounds lovely. And the thing that you spoke about, only focusing on the things that are in your control. So in psychology, we have this term called the circle of control. So you just focus on the things that you can control and just let everything else go. And I think that's a wonderful perspective to have. Also, since you mentioned AI, I think now might be a good time
okay.
to ask that question. So, as AI and automation change the workforce, how are you preparing students and teachers for this new reality? Are you integrating any AI literacy courses or technology readiness into your district strategy right now?
So, I would say we're dipping our toes in it when you talk about the student and teacher perspective. I think we're cautiously looking at that. We are piloting some things, especially in our elementary schools, around AI components, looking at student work, and then maybe recommending a next step, especially for kiddos that are struggling. So we are piloting some things to see how they work and how teachers feel about them. But again, just really dipping our toes in the water there. But as far as supervision evaluation, we are also working with a company right now to kind of develop a model where we can put our notes from the teacher observation in there. The AI will align it with the rubric for us that we use. And so it will help automate the process a little more, so we have time for more of those personal conversations. And so really looking at how we can use AI to make ourselves more efficient so we can have more time for the human connection.
That makes a lot of sense. And viewing AI as something that will make your life easier, I think that's a wonderful perspective to have. So, on to my next question. We've expanded dual enrollment, work-based learning, and early college pathways in Slate Valley. How does workforce development look like for your students? And how do you see it preparing for the life beyond high school?
Yeah, and so this is constantly, evolving. Just had a conversation about this morning with some of our fellow administrators and a board member too, and thinking about how we can get more kids involved actually in hands-on learning. But we have increased our dual enrollment. We have more kids entering into dual enrollment with our local colleges. And in the state of Vermont, the state pays for each kiddo to take 2 college classes. So that's super helpful for us. And the state also fully funds early college. So if we have students who are seniors who are able to go to early college, want to go to early college, and in our case, it's right in our community, they're able to do so at no cost to themselves or directly to the school district. So those are definitely 2 opportunities that our students take advantage of. Work-based learning, we have kids out in the community, apprenticing to be mechanics or doing some electrical or plumbing work. So really looking for community businesses who are willing to partner with us to take on some students so that they can explore that area of the workforce. And that's been something that's been constantly evolving. And then, today having a conversation about how we get more hands-on courses like shop, small engine repair, those types of courses back into our schools. We had them years ago. They've gone away, but because our technical centers have become much more competitive in the area and harder to get into, we're looking at, is there an opportunity to bring some of that coursework, back to our high school? So, always looking at ways that we can be more innovative and expand programming.
That is lovely. And you also mentioned certain funding challenges earlier. So that are often magnified in small and rural districts. So how do you balance financial sustainability with the need to expand opportunities like dual enrollment and work-based learning?
So that's like, the $1 million question, no pun intended, but yeah, it's challenging, right? We're in a very conservative, low spending district, so very financially conservative.
Mhm.
And our enrollment's declining, like many of the high schools and school districts throughout the state. So that is a challenge. So we constantly have to look at enrollment, return on investment, and, as we go through more consolidation in the state, are there schools next to us that we can partner with to offer some of these unique experiences for kids so that we're not solely financially responsible for that? So those are all things that we explore, but it is really challenging right now with the landscape.
And I am hoping that it gets better a little with time. And then the way that you've been partnering with other institutes, I think that is amazing. Okay, so on to my last question for the day. You've recently launched your own podcast. So, what inspired you to start it? And how do you see podcasting as a way to connect with your community and maybe the stakeholders?
Yeah, so we're always looking for new ways to communicate with our different demographics, and podcasts seem to be a big thing, especially with folks in the younger generation. And so we decided to launch one. In fact, we just did one this morning, recorded one this morning about, what a school board member is. And the intent is really to try to give snippets of information in bite-size amounts that's easily digestible. So if people are on their way home from work or way to work or soccer practice, they can listen to a quick 10-minute podcast and understand perhaps what's happening in the school district. Because we want to make sure that we get factual information out there, and that's something that we're constantly struggling with in the era of social media. So, and our local print newspaper wasn't, doing the trick, especially as more newspapers become move to online subscriptions.
That is lovely, and we wish you all the best for your podcast. So, those were all the questions that I had from my end. We have this little segment where we ask the previous leader that we've had a podcast with to share a question for the next one that we're doing. So, the question that has come up for you is that when a new innovative or a new program is introduced, some educators naturally adapt to it more quickly than the others. So, how do you identify those early adapters, equip them with the right resources to succeed, and then help them to extend that momentum across the rest of the district so that the change feels supported and sustainable?
So, I can think of several examples, but one example that comes to mind is peer observation.
Mhm.
We want to get teachers into each other's classrooms because we learn really well from one another. So, our director of curriculum, instructional coaches, even myself, I mean, we're willing to substitute for teachers
Mm.
who want to voluntarily go into others' classrooms, and that teacher volunteers to have somebody in their classroom. And then we have them, share that experience. And for most, that's been a really positive experience. And so that excitement breeds more volunteers. And so that's how we're able to gain traction with some of our initiatives. So I think you really need to find creative ways to support those early adopters, encourage them, and then raise them up when they do it and have them share their experiences
Mm.
and promote the great things that are happening.
Perfect. And thank you so much for that answer. And thank you so much for taking out the time to do this with us today. I think I learned a lot, especially about how this human connection can go a long way in terms of retaining teachers and then in terms of just building partnership. So, yeah, thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information about TomoClub, visit TomoClub or follow us on our socials. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.